Welcome back to Analytical Strategy. Today we are talking about some unknown rules within the game of Survivor. Now I am sure within the Survivor rulebook they would have most if not all situations mapped out and what they would do if a specific circumstance were to arise. But I'm going to briefly discuss some situations we are yet to see play out in the game and therefore cannot say with confidence what the result would be in that given circumstance. Before we get stuck into it, just a friendly reminder to please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, as it really means a lot and helps develop further content to be released. For everyone who has subscribed so far, thank you so much, and let's delve into these unknown Survivor rules. The first thing we're going to be discussing is a tied final tribal cancel vote. So within Survivor Ghost Island, we were able to see what happened in the case of a tied final tribal cancel vote in the circumstances of a 5-5-0 vote, with Wendell getting 5, Dom getting 5, and Laurel getting 0. And this rule was revealed that Laurel, the 0 vote finalist, made the deciding vote for the winner of this season. But what would happen in the event that all the finalists received the exact same amount of votes? For example, in Survivor Micronesia, Parvati won in a 5-3 vote against Amanda. What would have happened if the votes were split 4-4 and it was a deadlock? Or what would happen in a final 3, with there being 9 jury members and each finalist getting 3 votes each? Do you think the rules would differ between a tied final 2 and a tied final 3? There are a couple of theories I can think of for this circumstance occurring, but it may potentially differ if it were a final 2 or a final 3. So if it's a final 2, one situation which could occur would be the first jury member's vote is removed. So in the circumstance with Parvati and Amanda, rather than it being a 4-4 split, it could be a 4-3 split with that final vote being removed. Alternatively, the last member voted out of the game that didn't make the jury could cast the final vote to decide the game. So that would be a 5-4 rather than a 4-4. And this would also work in the circumstance of a final 3 split. Another alternative, if it is a final 3, and this is actually what I think would likely happen, is they would have a final 3 immunity challenge, where the winner eliminates one of the other 2 contestants, allowing for a winning amount of votes in a final 2. So the next unknown rule of Survivor I'm going to be discussing is whether a super idol can be played after a tied revote. So from the information provided in previous seasons, a super idol is able to be played after the votes are read. But is this idol only able to be played after the first reading of the votes? Or in the circumstance of a tied vote, could they wait and see how the revote occurred prior to playing the idol? If the player was one of the players in the tied vote, for example, it would be beneficial to wait until the revote to see if the votes changed prior to playing the idol. In the event where they are not one of the players being voted for, and then it came down to everyone having to draw rocks, could they then play their super idol to not be a part of the rock draw? I would suspect it would need to be played after the first reading of the votes, but as I have only heard it can be played after the votes have been read, it would be interesting to see which reading of the votes this referred to. So the next rule we're going to be talking about is everyone playing an idol or advantage within one tribal council and therefore everyone being immune. So within Survivor Game Changers we saw this nearly occur, where Sari was the only person eligible to receive votes and therefore went home by default, as all the other members left in the game were immune. Now what would have happened if Sari also had an idol in this situation? Would everyone just become vulnerable and a revote to occur straight away? Would this also include the person who won the immunity challenge, as this is a new set of votes technically? Or would they all go back to camp to give someone the opportunity to win the next immunity challenge and then go back to tribal after that? Given the Sari situation and the amount of advantages in the game in Modern Survivor, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw this happen in a not too distant future season. If I were to guess, I would expect everyone inclusive of the person who won immunity to be vulnerable, and a revote to occur straight away, but I cannot really say that with any certainty whatsoever. Thinking along the same lines of everyone playing an idol or an advantage, what would happen in the situation if there was a combination of idols being played and also a tied vote? So, similarly to everyone being immune via an idol, advantage, or the immunity necklace, what would happen if, say, there were 6 people left in the game, 4 of them were immune, and the other 2 received 3 votes each in the final vote? So as mentioned previously, generally these people would also become immune, and then everyone else would be eligible to go home. However, in this situation, there are no other options to actually go home. Would this be similar to the previous situation where the idols and or advantages are then dead and then another revote occurs, or would the 2 players which are tied have to face off in a fire-making challenge? It would also be interesting to know if this would differ in a pre-merge versus post-merge situation. For example, if it was pre-merge, would the whole tribe just become immune and no elimination to occur, or would similar rules apply to both situations? It's really difficult to say overall. The next unknown survivor rule I'm going to be discussing is what would happen if in a final 2 situation there was a medical evacuation. So Survivor is obviously a game where the jury get the overarching say on who played the best game and who wins the prize at the end. So in the circumstance of a final 2, what would happen if, say, these contestants needed to be either medically evacuated or had to leave the game due to a family emergency? Would they delay the final tribal council in order to let both of these players pitch their case to the jury as per every other season to win the game? Or would it be this person has to leave the game, so the other member just wins by default? In a final 3, I would expect it would likely go down to a final 2 at the final tribal if a contestant had to leave the game, but in a final 2 I'm really unsure how they would proceed with this type of situation. One of the biggest aspects of Survivor is that the final tribal council and pitching your case to the jury to win the game. However, every person who has had to leave the game previously for medical or family reasons has been eliminated from the game immediately, so this one is really difficult to say what they would do in this type of situation. Up next I'm going to be discussing what happens with young contestants on rewards with alcohol, and the obvious answer is they're just not allowed to drink it as per Jeff and Production's guidelines. But there have been a number of underage people who play Survivor, and more recently these people have decided to deliberately lie about their age, as they believe it ruins credibility. For example, Michael in Ghost Island was an 18-year-old, but he was playing as a 23-year-old in the game. In Survival Millennials vs Gen X, Will was playing openly as an 18-year-old, and when he went on rewards with alcohol, Jeff always clearly stated that he was unable to drink at these rewards and he had to stick to soft drink. Now, in a circumstance where, say, a Michael was in one of these situations, would he just advise Production in advance that he would either claim to be sober or he didn't want to drink until after the game, and not let Jeff intervene on his gameplay? Or is it Jeff's responsibility to state that underage players are not able to drink in these challenges? I do not recall this ever really occurring before, and obviously they wouldn't televise Michael's conversations about strategy with Production, but it would be interesting to see how much Jeff and Production would infiltrate someone's strategy when it comes down to the law. I would expect they wouldn't intrude in these situations unless a Michael type actually took a sip of alcohol, but I can't really say that with any certainty. Up next we're going to be talking about a deadlock type scenario at a tribal council, but unlike one we have ever seen on Survivor before. So in this situation we're going to be talking about a 3-person deadlock, and then it goes down to a 2-person deadlock again on the revote. So this is obviously a very situational scenario. For example, there are 12 people left in the game, and the first vote there is a 4-4-4 split at the tribal council. So the 3 people who have been voted for then sit out of the revote, and the other 9 remaining players vote again. So on the revote, say it went down to a 4-4-1 vote on the revote, would there then be another deadlock and another revote occurs due to one person being cut from the tiebreaker, or does it go straight to having to make a unanimous decision before going to rocks? I would expect after the second deadlock it would be the same as all other deadlocks we've seen to date, going to the tribe having to make a unanimous decision or rocks will be drawn. But as we are yet to see this situation occur, again I can't say this with 100% confidence. So the final unknown rule of Survivor I'm going to be bringing up is an extreme hypothetical situation and is obviously very unlikely to occur, and that is everyone getting 1 vote each, likely during a pre-merge type situation. But what would happen in the circumstance that each person on a tribe received only 1 vote? Technically there shouldn't be a revote, as each person up for elimination in a normal situation would sit out of the revote. I think in this situation it would likely go straight to a revote, and then if the votes happened again the same, it would have to go to rocks. This should hopefully never happen, but the Survivor rulebook hopefully has every situation mapped out in the circumstance that it does happen, and it'll be interesting to see what they had if every single person got 1 vote each. So these are just 8 situations we have yet to see in Survivor, and therefore are unsure of the rules which directly encompass them. What do you think would happen in these situations? Are there any additional unknown rules you have thought of? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thanks so much for watching, and please hit subscribe if you're enjoying the content. This is Analytical Strategy signing out once again, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.